them. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Terrific Tips for Business. I'm Terry, your host, and today we have Derek Ruff with us. And I want to take a moment to introduce Derek. I am just getting to know Derek myself, so this is going to be an interesting conversation. Derek Ruff is the head coach program coordinator for EA Prep University, North Carolina basketball, football advocate for student athlete advancement, North Carolina scholarship camp director for SDC scholarship camps, serves on the Parks and Recreation Committee for the city of Thomasville, and is the owner of Square One Sports Academy. Phew, guys, he sounds a lot like me. He likes to stay busy, and so we're going to get a lot of really great information from him today, I think. Derek was born in High Point, North Carolina, raised in Thomasville since he was about 5 years old, and he was the graduating class of 2000 from Thomasville Senior High School. While he was there, he was a member of the Spanish Club, Health Occupations, Gospel Choir, Prep Club, Marching Band, football, and indoor-outdoor track teams. He's like to be busy his whole life. I love it. After high school, he attended Lenore Ryan College, now known as Lenore Ryan University in Hickory, North Carolina, where he was a member of the football team and studied occupational therapy, which later changed into psychology. Later, he joined the United States Army, and just days before 9/11, he served in both OIF and OEF. I'm not sure what OIF or OEF is, so you'll have to elaborate on that.
I sure will.
After returning, he began his career in the human services field, specifically centering and concentrating on behavioral issues with adolescents and at-risk youth. In 15 short years, he's been a member of the crisis team at Horizon Elementary in Hudson, North Carolina, assisted in gang investigations in behavioral management at Millbrook and Longview High Schools in Raleigh, North Carolina. He's also worked with youth in various schools, residential and community settings in Catawba and Wake counties. This later presented him the opportunity to work with persons with disabilities as an employment specialist with Goodwill Industries of Northwest North Carolina. His primary duties there were to train, maintain, and obtain employment for participants in Iredell and Catawba counties. I might be saying that wrong, but that's okay. Simultaneously, he is an active professional career that he was building. His coaching career after injury ended his own playing career. And he's even coached and trained all age groups from young year-olds through collegiate athletes. Throughout the years, coaching men and women's basketball, track and football, he can proudly say that he has had one winless season and has been part of thousands of student athletes attending college or military. This includes being part of launching the winning tradition of women's basketball state championships at Millbrook High School. That's amazing. Last and certainly not least, Derek is a very proud and blessed father of a child and a child of the highmost. He has one biological 12-year-old son and 6 young men and women that he keeps under his wing to support and treat like his very own. Join me in welcoming Derek to the show. Thank you for being here this afternoon.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate it. That is a lot, isn't it?
It really is. You know, it's funny. We don't think about all the things that we do until we go to write it down on paper. And then we're like, wow, that's actually quite an accomplishment.
Yes. I've done quite a bit of things since I just learned from early on in age. My parents were just adamant about us staying involved in not just sports, but also, everything else. I remember days when we were little, at 9 years old, we would have piano lessons and keyboard lessons before we had to go to football practice. So we stayed involved in, a little bit of everything. So.
Well, it keeps you really well-rounded to be able to have such an arts background and an athletic background, too.
It does. And I tell my son the same thing. You got to do more than just sports, get involved in other things. Even if it's just go and visit your friends that are involved in other things, just get involved in different things.
Go and do something other than video games? Derek, are you sure I'm talking to the right person at the right time?
Oh, man, I would love for that to be what he would think right now. If he heard me say that, he'd be upset.
Well, I guess it's a good thing he's in the other room studying.
Exactly.
So you were in the military. Which branch did you serve in?
I served in the U.S. Army. I was actually stationed. I went in as in the reserves when I initially went in, and as luck would have it, I actually took my ASVAB test and went and did my swear in. I came home the next morning, and I got a phone call from a friend that a girl I was dating at the time that lived in D.C. and her dad worked at the Pentagon. So I got a phone call, and I'm like, why are you in such a panic? I just don't understand what's going on. I cut the TV on, and I thought I was watching Independence Day, so I cut it back off. I was like, whatever, I'm tired. I just came back from swearing in and about to make a huge life change here. And then I hear, no, it's 9/11. So my entire military career was dealt with 9/11, training for it, getting ready to go overseas. The OIF and OEF that I know you said you weren't sure what that was. It was Operation Iraqi Freedom was one of the first wars we was in with them, and then we did Operation Enduring Freedom. So I was actually in a unit that we stayed for about 15 consecutive months, which no one does that now. After that, Bush kind of stopped people from doing it. So I was able to be a part of both. Like I was there before the capture of Saddam and after the capture of Saddam. So I was there throughout that entire time.
Wow, wow. That must have had some lasting effects for you, I'm sure. I know my brother is in the Air Force as well. He's in the reserves and he's been part of Operation Enduring Freedom because he's
Mm-hmm.
younger. He's younger than us.
Right.
So he didn't get to participate in the initial part, which I'm thankful for because they did make some serious changes because of the mental health situations that happened for guys who are spending so much time overseas.
Oh, absolutely. It definitely it brings an impact, and you don't really notice the impact. I didn't personally really notice the impact for years down the road. I actually got out in 2009. And I mean, the day we came back from overseas, I think we came back on an Easter. I want to say it was 2004, 2005, somewhere around there. We came back on Easter weekend, and that Monday, I was working at a group home before we left to go overseas. That Monday morning, I was back at work at the group home. And I know a lot of people took, the 60 or 90 days off that you get. I didn't do that. I went straight back into, doing my regular routine and continued on through it. So,
Do you think that actually helped you in the long run, kind of keep your mental sanity actually? Just
um,
right back into it?
I'm not sure. Um, because I didn't do it the other way, so I'm not sure. And unfortunately, I had a friend who just recently, we found that passed away. That unfortunately he committed suicide, and we still don't
Mm.
really know what it was, but we know some impacts from that. Had something to do with it. So I'm not exactly sure. Some people say it worked good for them to take the time off. Some people don't. I was just missing the kids and missing working in the group home, and then I had another story I could share with them to help them develop. So I was just anxious to get back.
Yeah, yeah. I think everybody is a little different in terms of how they cope with situations like that. And so being able to kind of come back and share those stories with them, what kind of impact did you see that having on the kids in the group home with you being able to share some of those stories?
Um, it was. I already had their respect before I left, just because the way I talked to them on their level, and still kept them in line. But I had a lot more of their attention, and they actually got to see firsthand someone that they knew before they went and came back. So they were able to see that you can get through struggles in life, because that's one of the biggest struggles on this planet is to go to a war. So they actually got to see you can get through the struggles in life, come back, and still be able to maintain and give back. I've never really used my veteran status to gain me anything. I mean, there's not a lot of people that even know that I'm a veteran. I try not to use that as the leading force of a conversation, but it does come up.
I love that. And the reason I love that is because we're kind of, as we're recording this, in the middle of a war. We're in the
Yeah.
middle of a health war with this COVID-19 stuff going on. And are you able to keep in touch with any of the kids that you were mentoring at that group home now?
I don't really talk to many of them. I do occasionally talk to some of the workers that are still around there, but I don't really talk to any of those kids now. I just kind of lost touch with them, which is unfortunate for me because I like to keep in touch. But I did just lose a little bit of touch with them because I only came back and worked there for about another 3-4 months, and then I moved away
Gotcha.
and started building my career. So
Yeah. I ask only because it would be very interesting to see how the lesson of you can endure anything if you have the right mindset, how that's affecting them during this situation, because this war is on our home turf and it is affecting everybody differently. And I'm sure that that lesson that you taught them is something that they're taking to heart right now. And I know that's certainly something that we could all learn from. So what's one tip that you were able to share with them when you came back that might be able to help our listeners today deal with some of the challenges that they're facing, either in their business or personal life?
the biggest tip that I just offered, and I still offer this to all my players that I deal with, parents, families, whoever I'm in a conversation with. The biggest tip is that no matter what's happening every day, if your eyes are open, then that gives you a chance to do something different. And that's just, I mean, that's the only encouragement that I try to stay with, even when I'm having hard days and bad days and days I just want to give up. The next day I open my eyes. So if my eyes are open, it means I'm meant to be here to do something.
I like that. I've heard that if my feet are on this side of the grass,
Hmm.
then I'm put here to do something. So it's the same concept. But yeah, I mean, if you're waking up, there's a reason you woke up today.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And that really does help to ground you too, even if you're having a bad day. Because listen, bad days happen. Everybody has a bad day from time to time, right?
Exactly.
So how you get through that bad day, that's what makes the difference. And you're right, we do have a choice. We have an opportunity to change how we're going to deal with it every day, every minute of every day, every hour of every day. We have the ability to write a new chapter in our story.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, and it's up to us to decide, even with the bad, and like I said, I tell anybody this, even with the bad, it's up to us to decide how we react to that. And that goes in business, in your regular personal life, relationships, whatever it is. It's up to you to decide how you react to something negative that just happened. You're either going to learn from it or you're not. It's up to you.
Yeah, and nobody's really going to be able to tell you how to from whatever situation you're in. You're in a unique situation. Every single one of us is a unique individual. So every situation that we face is unique in terms of how we face it and how we deal with it, how we internalize it, and then what we do with that after the fact, right?
Exactly.
We can give tips, success leaves clues.
Right.
So, based off of your own story, you can give tips to help somebody figure out what steps they might need to take. But the steps that they need to take are still going to be different than the steps you needed to take at the time that you were going through your situation.
Exactly. Exactly. I remember having a conversation with one of my business coaches, and they was having me, write down, what's the biggest asset of you as a business owner? Like, what does your business do that no other company does? And I thought about it for a little while, and I'm writing down all the different services. Excuse me. And I'm writing down the partnerships I have, and I'm writing down my experiences, and then I finally got it all written down. I'm looking at everything, and I was like, the biggest asset of my business is me, because no one thinks in the pattern that I think in. That doesn't mean that other people don't think better, but the way I string it together in my mind fits my life and it fits my agenda and what I'm trying to do. And I think we all should take a time to look at that and just think of how you're thinking. And that's something you learn in psychology too. Think of the way you're thinking, you know, and that'll change your outlook on a lot of things.
Do you think that the way that we think actually is something we can control or change?
I do. I think that if you are constantly catching yourself playing the victim, which we see all over Facebook all the time. It's a lot of people pointing the finger at what everyone else is doing, and then if you say, "Well, you did that," they have an excuse for it. And I call it, you're playing the victim when you do that. So you're too busy thinking and worried about what other people are doing to affect you, but you're not busy thinking about what you're doing to affect you.
Ooh, that's a good one. You're not worried about what you need to do to affect you. So, what are some of the outside influences that maybe can be affecting people that are distracting us from spending some time on the internal work?
Don't shoot the messenger, but the news.
I promise I won't shoot the messenger.
Facebook, even your friends, your circle that you surround yourself with. If you surround yourself with just negative thinking people all the time, then that's what you're gonna get. I mean, and it's interesting how some people will take their situation and say, well, I have to be around this person. Actually, you don't have to be around anybody on this planet. You choose to be around them. So if you're listening to that negativity constantly, or if you're the type of person that constantly feels like you need to take on the burdens of everybody else and you're not taking the time for yourself, then you're going to start feeling insecure, and you're going to have self-doubt, and you're going to start feeling like people don't care about you. So then you're not going to be paying attention to your actions and the way you react to things. And it can damage you internally. And it takes a long time to change that behavior and that way of thinking. Once you get to that point, because once something bad happens, you start feeling like, well, I'm not good enough and I'm not worthy of anything better anyway. So now you're stuck in that negative thinking. And so it's just important to try to find something positive out of every day. Find someone, even no matter who it is, find somebody that you can go and talk to. I scroll down Facebook sometimes and I just scroll through and look at different conversations people are having just to laugh. I mean, because there's some hilarious stuff on there. And I just sit and I laugh at it and I'm like, you know what? My day is better now.
That's funny, and that's very true. So as a coach, I think one of the biggest challenges you have, especially as a coach for young people, is the digital space. I mean, we can't escape it. So if you have somebody on your team that you're working with who's being bullied, whether they're being bullied at school, being bullied at home, being bullied online, what are some of the tools or tricks that you maybe help them to find that inner fortitude, that inner self-confidence to keep moving forward?
One thing is to reassure them that they can always come to me. And I say that full heartedly. Every player I've ever had knows without a doubt, even now, they know without a doubt, once you become part of Coach Ruff's team, you're always a member of this family. I have kids now that are in their 20s with kids, and they'll still call me with an issue. And I'm like, all right, first of all, let's breathe. Is that something that's worth being stressed about? And I think you got to take bullying and things the same way. Um, you can't always get so hung up on what people say and what people think about you. If we spend our lives worried about what other people think about us, I mean, you're just going to end up being a very isolated person, because you just you're too busy worried about, well, she said this or she said that. And then I give them just a simple advice of, well, first of all, is whatever they're saying, is it true? If it's true and you don't like it, then fix it. If it's not true, fine. Don't worry about it.
That's really good advice right there. If it's true, so do something about it. Change. You only have the power to change you. You don't have the power to change somebody else. And what's really interesting, I actually heard a saying once that said, it is not your responsibility to worry about what other people think, say, and do, or opinions that they have of you. It is only your job to be the best you can be.
Wow.
And if you're focused on being the best you that you can be, none of that other stuff matters. So if whatever they're saying is true, well, then I guess you need to make some changes and
Exactly.
reflect on
I
that.
mean, it's really simple. We make it so complicated. It's simple. I've had that conversation with my 12-year-old son. I love him dearly. I mean, he is my world. But if he tells me something not true, and I'll say, son, you're telling me a lie. No, Daddy, you're calling me a liar. Well, son, did you tell me something truthful? Well, no. Well, then what does that make you?
Ah,
Like, I don't like it. Okay, well, then you just got to fix it.
that's a
It's
you problem, son, not me.
it's really simple. I'm going to call you on it every time, but if you fix it, we don't have that problem.
Yeah. Yeah. What's one of the biggest challenges that you're noticing as a coach in today's world?
The biggest challenge right now that has really hit hard. I would have to say that society giving kids false hope is our biggest issue right now. Every kid thinks that they're going to go professional. Every kid thinks that they're the next greatest. They have a false sense of what the value of money is because they see all these millionaire athletes doing whatever they want to do, and they forget to see the hard work it took to get to that level. Um, a lot of kids, especially basketball players and then boys basketball players, are the worst. That they all think they're going to be D1 athletes playing at the best school and be the next LeBron James. And I'm like, let's pump the brakes a little bit here. Let's think about this thing a little bit. Right now, if you don't have Coach K or Coach Roy calling you or Coach Calipari, or they're not calling you, you're probably not a D1 prospect for that level. So let's go ahead and get your mind and start thinking a little bit differently.
So you really help them to keep perspective. I think that's really critical for business owners too. When we're kids, and this has been the situation in our society for a long time, is when we're kids, we're all told we're unique, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can do anything if you put your mind to it, right?
Right.
Which is true. If we make the decision that we want to do something, we can do it. We can make it happen. We can make a lot of things happen because we are our own creator within
Right.
our own body and brain, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we can create our own reality. What we don't see though is all of the hard work that it takes to get there sometimes.
Exactly. We don't see the hard work, and then we don't see. I think a lot of youth believe I can do whatever I want to do because in my mind, this is where I want to get to. But they forget, well, if you can make simple mistakes here and there that can change the direction of your life. Um, Everything from not having good grades in school, not having good grades in high school, it affects what college you go to, which in turn can possibly affect what you end up doing as a career. Not always. I won't say always, but if you don't do those foundational pieces and those fundamental parts, if you don't do them then, you're going to have to do the groundwork later if you still want to reach that same goal. So eventually you're going to have to do it. You can do it on your own, or you can do it while you have teachers and educators right there helping you. Either
Yeah.
way, it's only one road to success, and that is to keep pushing forward. You can't go backwards to get to be successful. It's just not going to happen.
Well, and sometimes success isn't a straight line. It is kind of all over the place and screwy. So sometimes we think it is like, if I just keep pushing forward, I'm going to get to where I want to go. But as business owners, we know there are a lot of outside factors that can contribute to or can distract us or can pull us off of our course that can stop us from achieving the success that we're looking for. So success really isn't a straight line. It's much more complicated than that, right?
It is. I maybe my wording is wrong. For example, like when I started Square One Sports Academy, the idea and dream and vision came in 2006. I had the vision. I didn't have the other pieces that I thought that I had everything I needed right then because I was coaching, Little League sports. I was doing great. We were winning championships. I was the talk of the town as far as in that area. And for that recreational league, I mean, I was one of the go-to coaches that, hey, we want to talk to you about this. I had coaches constantly asking me questions, parents, and I felt on top of the world. I'm like, yeah, I can go and be a trainer. I can go train kids. I can go do this. And I wasn't ready for what all really came with it. And I didn't see that. And I didn't see it until I tried to do it. And I was like, wait a minute, why is this not working? It's supposed to work. It's supposed to just happen at the snap of my fingers. And then it didn't. And then I ended up going on to, I moved to Raleigh and I'm working through the school system and I went through, volunteering as a football coach. And sometimes things happen just the way they're supposed to happen. And it just so happened that one of the basketball coaches, she was pregnant. She had to go on maternity leave. So I was able to slide in as an assistant coach. And then I moved to a head coach position. And, so I had to gradually grow and learn but I had to earn my space too. And while I was earning my space, I also had to take the lessons that I learned as a youth, the things that I got out of sports, the things that I've had to go through myself, dealing with the military, dealing with injuries, dealing with just finding my own identity, because I am a twin. So that's something that I had to really search hard to find my own identity. So I was able to relate to the kids and relate to them on that level. So it's more than teaching them sports. It's more about how can you take this sport you love and transfer it into life skills, make you better in the classroom, make you better in life. And that's actually what the foundation of what Square One Sports Academy is. It's not just I teach you how to play sports, because anybody can teach you how to play sports. Yeah, you can get on YouTube and learn how to play a sport. That's not it. But if no one ever takes the time to teach you the why and how of it, then you'll just forever be lost.
That's really good. And the beautiful thing is sports, the reason why sports is so good is because it is team effort. And so for business owners, we cannot be in business by ourselves. We can't accomplish what we're trying to accomplish alone. And I talk to myself when I say this just as much as I'm talking to the listeners, because it is something that we have to keep in mind, that we have to have the team, whatever team that is, whether it be the sports team, it be the team of advisors and coaches and support that you have, or literally the team of employees that's helping you run the day-to-day operations of your organization. You still have to have a team. You can't do it all on your own. Nobody gets through this life alone. And so helping people to understand that, what are leadership qualities and how do we hone in on those leadership qualities, and how do we mentor those leadership qualities so that they can be the best leaders they can possibly be. Because it's not about making them into the leader we wish we were, or making them into the leader that we think they ought to be. It's about making them into the leader they can be, that they want to be.
Exactly.
Are there certain things that you look for in your team that help you to know this is somebody who actually will make it? This is somebody who has this dream to be the next LeBron James, and they actually have the ability to do it if we just focus them or pivot them or help them in certain ways?
Um, there are, you can look at an athlete and honestly you can see, I mean, you have those sleepers sometimes that'll creep through and they'll do some things that you're like, wow, I didn't see that coming from that kid. But overall you can see it coming. But one of the things that I look for universally is I look for someone that is hardworking, and they fight through adversity. They are natural born leaders. Those are the kids that when I'm picking my teams and doing my recruiting for my teams, those are the kids I'm looking for. I don't care what their talent level is, because I can teach you the skill, but I can't teach heart. And coaches, you hear coaches say it all the time, I cannot teach you heart. I can't make you be where you don't want to be. So if I see that they have leadership abilities, if I see that they're trying their best and they're giving me everything they have, there's always, like you said, it's a team effort. So even if all they're good at is, in basketball, for example, I had a player who she was really, really good at shooting free throws. Everything else on the court, she was not that good at. But she worked hard. She knew my playbook up and down. She was very intelligent. She was the first one at practice, the last one to leave. I mean, she worked hard, but she didn't miss a single free throw in a single game. And I had other people say, why'd you put her on your team? She's not that good. I'd sub her in and say, watch this. And she didn't miss. So she fulfilled her part of the team, because her part was to get us those 1 or 2 points that she could do. And she was perfectly fine with that.
Everybody has a role to play. Even the person whose their only job is to hit the basket. It's their only job. They still have a role to play, because they're doing something that somebody else on the team can't do, or maybe isn't as good at doing.
Exactly. And that goes with business. I mean, we all have that one coworker that's just really good at one thing, and that's who you're gonna ask to do that one thing, but you need them to do it. So
Yeah, exactly. And you're not gonna go to that one coworker and say, I know you're really busy, but can you help me with A, B, and C? No.
right.
I know you're really busy, but I could really use your help with A.
Exactly. That's it. That's all I need you to do
Just
is
saying.
just for me. And you're
Because I'll go
good.
down the hall and I'll ask Bob down the hall if he can do B and C for me.
Exactly. Exactly.
Exactly. And I think that as a leader, it's important to recognize the strengths of your team.
It is. It is. And not even just in your leadership role. Yes, you should as a leader. And that is one thing I've seen in business owners and just in general, that some people don't know how to recognize talent, regardless of what it is and what space you're in. Some people don't know how to recognize talent. And then you also have other people that are not my favorite people on the planet, but they love to sit back and say, well, I'm not a supervisor, I'm not a leader, so that's not my role to do that. Well, if you're good at doing this and you see your coworker struggling with it and you have knowledge on it, it is your role to go and help them. Because overall, that helps the company. So why would you not do that? You know, we all live in a very self-centered world right now, which is fascinating to me because I don't understand this change of when we changed over to everybody's for themselves, because that's just not how I was raised, and I don't live that way.
And that's beautiful. I'm glad that you don't live that way. It's not the world that I choose to live in either. It is about the rising tide rises all boats. And so the more people you can help, whether that's your job or not, if you know how to do something and you see somebody else struggling, it is part of the human experience to share that knowledge and help your fellow man or woman so that they can get what they're trying to get done or what they're trying to accomplish. Because here's the thing, good leaders are not people who just step all over people. Good leaders are people who recognize somebody struggling, reach down and help them up.
Exactly.
They're not just stepping on people, but they're coming over and they're saying, look, you're having a challenge with this. I know, I recognize this challenge. I've been here before. Let me help you through this. And you know what's going to happen is when that person comes up, they're going to reach down and help the person behind them. And
Exactly.
you create a trickle down effect.
That's the hope. And you know, it's interesting. I remember the first time I had a coach when I was in high school, my track coach actually. And he said, "Hey, I want you to know something." He came and got me from school one morning. It was like, I want to talk to you." I'm like, "All right, what's up, coach?" And he said, "I just want you to know, I really appreciate your hard work and, the things that you do, and it doesn't go unnoticed." And of course, I'm like, "All right, I appreciate it, because of course you're my coach. You're supposed to say that to me." He was like, "No, no, this isn't from me. Like the kids in the middle school, like they notice, they talk about you at the middle school, and you're a leader." And I was like, "Please don't call me a leader. I don't want that responsibility. That's not what I don't want that role. I don't want that pressure put on myself." So I never call myself a leader. I try not to anyway, but I do recognize that it is part of my responsibility, I feel, to help people in any way I can, whether it's some knowledge that I have, share a story, be a shoulder, whatever it is. If I can do it, I'll do it. Don't take my kindness for weakness, but at the same time, if I can help you, I will.
Yeah, and I think that's another common misconception in our society is people think that just because somebody is nice, they're weak.
Hmm.
And that's not necessarily true. I mean, you can be nice, but be really somebody you don't want to mess with. I mean, if you think about some of the world's strongest martial artists or boxers or fighters or even, killers, our military people could kill people in a second with their bare hands. But they're usually, not all of them, but they're usually very kind people as long as you don't piss them off.
That's the way of this world, and that's what, if you notice, the businesses that are successful, when they're if you ever had a chance to actually sit in a conference with a strong business minded leader, they walk in the room, they command the room. They're not doing it in a mean, harsh way, but this is the way we need to do this. This is how it's going to do it. Stick to the agenda. Boom, boom, boom. And then you walk out in the hall and they're smiling and laughing, and you're like, man, they were just in here chewing my head off. And that was business. This is because that's what their role is, to keep everybody in line, keep everything moving in the way it's supposed to move. Kind of same thing as our roles as parents. We're not always the nice guy, you know. So it's that same approach that we have to take sometimes. And sometimes you just have to be that person. It's not out of hurt, but I think as long as our heart and our minds is guided with the intentions of helping, then it can be, the message will be received that way, versus some
Absolutely.
people that just are malicious just because they're malicious.
Absolutely. Our job as leaders, as parents, as coaches, as people who run organizations, our job is not to be nice all the time.
Right.
Our job is to have a clear vision, have a path that we are giving the empowerment and encouragement to our team to fulfill. We're showing them the vision. We're letting them in on our vision so that they can help us. They can work with us to achieve that goal, achieve that mission, and make that vision a reality. And sometimes that requires us to step in and say, that's not working.
Right.
You're trying to do it this way. I need you to do it that way, because that way is going to get it done faster, smarter, cheaper, whatever the case may be. And you're going to be able to help this many more people if we do it this way as opposed to the way you're doing it. And I think it's important for business leaders to keep that in mind and keep that in perspective, is that you're not supposed to be the hard ass all the time either.
Exactly, exactly. And that is what some people fail to actually see. Sometimes you don't always have to be that side. You need to show, you got to have a compassionate side, you have a caring side, but you do need to be able to separate the two, and make it gel and work the way it needs to work, so everything goes accordingly. I mean, that's just, I mean, for me, fortunately, in my field, I mean, I don't have any employees under me, so that is kind of helpful. I mean, my boss is a bit of a jerk though, so,
Does he
but
make you work on the weekends?
uh, yes, 7 days a week, 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning too.
Ah, he really needs to give you some vacation, man.
I keep telling them, but I do have several friends that will jump in and help me out, and they do step out there on the limb sometimes for me, and I'm like, hey, I'm just in a crunch. I need you to go do this, even if it's something simple as, hey, I need you to go send these emails for me so I can go and have this conversation, or call this person and just start the conversation, set up a meeting for me. Little things that I can do, but sometimes I need that 10 minutes to myself. And so I don't have to do the battle of dealing with, I can be mean, I can be nice, I can be whatever, because I'm doing it to myself. So it's fine. But I do have to be mindful, and a lot of things I've gone through in life have helped me. When I go out and talk to other business leaders, I try to listen and see what they do. And it's not too many people that I don't meet. And even like, I'm in the Launch Thomasville program right now, so I'm listening to the other business leaders that are in there and listen to what their ideas are and their concepts are. Um, and the way my mind works is, I'm listening for, hey, how can I network with them? How can I partner with them? How can I help their business and their business help mine? Because we're all trying to operate in this one space. And that's how I, meet people in general. If I'm having a conversation with, it's not 10 people I can't have a conversation with. There are some types of people that I really don't like, but for the most part, I can have a.
You got muted there, Derek. Sorry.
Sorry, somebody was calling me. Because I've been able to relate on so many different levels. I've been in board meetings with the CEO of Elmer's Glue. I've been in with the head guys at Caterpillar, Cracker Barrel, Goodwill. But then I've also sat down with the little mom and pop owners too, and been sitting with just the general manager, and I talk to them and treat them all the exact same way. We're here to gel and figure out how we can work together to make this, whatever your vision is, what my vision is, let's work together, and let's accomplish both our goals so that everybody wins.
I love that philosophy and that mentality of having that collaboration mindset where it's not about you coming in and trying to sell or pitch or promote yourself. It's about you coming in with the mindset of, how can I help somebody else? What can I learn about somebody? And you're like me. I think that's why we're getting along so well. You've never met a stranger. I don't know what a stranger is. My parents tried to tell me about strangers when I was a child, and it went in one ear and out the other. But I think that's a beautiful thing, is that we can be friends with anybody, and we can talk with them about business, about life, about whatever's on their mind, and still manage to find a way to collaborate with them, to help them reach whatever they're trying to reach, whatever goal they might have.
Exactly.
That's what a strong leader really is at the end of the day. I think a strong leader is somebody who can remove themselves from the situation. They can, one, recognize when they need to get out of the situation because it's not a situation that is serving them or the people that they're talking to. But it's also, a good leader is somebody who knows how to listen more than they speak, for how they can help somebody else. And they also are looking for ways to help somebody else. They're recognizing somebody else's skills and abilities, and they're also recognizing somebody else's weaknesses potentially to help them overcome those challenges so that they can find the success that they're looking for.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. I actually did a speech one day in a college course on effective communication, and how we spend a lot of time listening to respond, and we don't listen to learn, and we don't listen to the content of actually what's being told to us. We're just waiting for our chance to respond. We'll listen long enough and we hear one key thing, and our mind just goes blank because we're too busy thinking about what I'm going to say back to this, and you forget the rest of everything else that was said. And it's a hard thing to train yourself to do. I struggle with it sometimes, especially when I'm really talking about something I'm very, very passionate about. I don't want to hear anything you got to say. I want to get out what I got to say, then I'll listen. But it comes with the territory.
I think it does. And I think leaders who, anybody who's going to be a leader is going to be passionate about what they're doing. And so most of the time, the leaders that you find, leaders of organizations, leaders of teams, leaders that are coaches that are coaching other people, leaders of households, a lot of times are very passionate about what they're doing. And because they're passionate about what they're doing, it does make it sometimes hard for them to shut up and listen.
I understand that completely. Yes. Yes.
It happens to the best of us. It's all good. So, Derek, what's one thing that you want to accomplish in the year 2020 that you could use some help with, or maybe some collaboration on?
You mean personal goal wise, or just in general business wise?
Either.
I
What's
have
coming up for you right now?
well, some of the projects I have going on right now is, one, I need to get over this COVID-19 crisis, because I'm not going to say it's putting a downpour on my business. The industry I'm in overall, it is killing the industry. Fortunately for me, I made some solid business partnerships a couple years back. I didn't foresee COVID-19 coming, so I'm not about to sit there like I'm a fortune teller. I didn't foresee that. But what I did
Oh
foresee
man, I was going to ask you for the lotto numbers. Come on.
I wish I knew them. But what I did notice is, I noticed the trend in social media and in, technology and the way it's been going for some time now. So I already had some things in place to start looking at virtual trainings and doing some things where you can be from home doing stuff. Our disabilities population is one that's near and dear to my heart, and it gets ignored quite often. So I have some things in place down the road that I want to make some mobile training stations and things to help out, some of the parents who I know, because I worked with them for a long time, and there's parents who would love to be able to get out and do a whole lot of things, but they have that child at home who is struggling with some things, so they may not want to take them certain places. Parents are stressed, and the kid just really wants to just be normal, and they can't, or for whatever definition of normal people want to say. But so right now, some of the
Normal
things
is relative, just like everything else, right? In the
right.
eye of the beholder.
Exactly. One of the biggest projects I have coming up is as we said at the beginning, I'm the head coach and program coordinator for EA Prep University. And what that is it's a post-high school basketball program. It'll come out to other sports later. But it is surrounded around what they're calling the gap year. So a lot of kids are taking that year, which now with COVID-19, they're encouraging a lot of high schoolers to come out and take a gap year. Experiential education, which is it's a teaching philosophy that talks about learning from the world, but it's the same thing as how studying abroad, that people heard about a lot of times, or people spend a year to go and find themselves. So so we designed I designed a program that gives athletes that opportunity to do that. Doesn't cost them their time in college. They get to learn the skills that they need. The ones who think that they should be getting better offers than they're getting, the ones who still can't decide on the college they want to go to because they don't know what fits them and how to actually, shape their career and their life. So that's one of the biggest projects I'm working on. And with that, I am bringing that to Thomasville. And that's going to be a huge, huge project that I'm working on, because one of the things that I got to find is housing for about 10 to 20. Well, I need housing for men and women, because we're having men and women. So finding housing, gym space around this area is hard to get, sometimes, depending. So that's some of the largest things. And then, as we were talking before, I really am going to start looking for some people to jump in with me on this golf course, this indoor golf course thing, because our youth could use some things to do that are outlets other than go to the park, go to the Parks and Recreation Department, ride your skateboard. If they're not a skateboarder or a basketball player or a baseball player or soccer, they're pretty much just out here. Our tennis courts don't even get utilized the way they should. We don't have outlets for our teens right now in this area, and it's pretty sad that we don't, because I remember growing up, we did have outlets. It wasn't a lot, but we had things here. I remember, when I was little, when we had the movie theater here that's no longer here. We don't have pretty much anything around. We have a lot of gyms and a lot of pizza, but we
But
don't
you
have
need the gyms if you're going to eat all the pizza.
Exactly. And that's not to criticize our restaurants, because we have some very good restaurants. It's just we're not, our kids, our teens, especially our teens, don't have the programs around the area to help them develop and help them through some of the things that we all know teenagers go through, especially in a small town of Thomasville. That they have been, I'm not going to say brainwashed, but they've kind of sat into that norm of, we're from Thomasville and this is going to be our life. Never going to go outside of it. It amazes me how many kids that I talk to that have never been outside of the county, and it's,
Oh,
and let
wow.
alone state. It's a lot of that. So a project that I am, really passionate and working on is trying to develop those chances for kids, because with my programs that I offer, any child that signs up for one of my camps or comes to join one of my teams, they automatically get $1,000 towards college. And
That's awesome.
yeah, and we're talking colleges like Lenore Ryan, Catawba College, Barton College, Meredith College, Wingate College is on that list. Who's the other one? Bennett is on it. It's about 30 schools in North Carolina, and they're D2 high quality educational schools. Of course, they're private schools, so they have high tuition, so that $1,000 helps. And
Oh
if the
yeah, every $1,000 help. This $1,000 and that $1,000, they all add up, right? It's like a penny
exactly,
here and a penny there. It
exactly, because
all
they can,
adds up.
yes, they can earn up to like 4,000 per year. And if
Nice.
they just so happen to get a scholarship or whatever other ways to pay for it, and they decide not to use the money that they earned, they can pass it down to a family member, a friend. It's theirs. They earned it. It's theirs. It's not
That's
required.
really cool.
Yeah, so it's a great program, so I want to do more things for our youth to get involved in. Like I've talked a lot with Anthony Long, who was a big community leader here, and we talked about starting a chess team. I've talked to Wendy Sellers, and I know her kids were involved in lacrosse, so lacrosse is something that we're trying to look to do here. maybe a club tennis program other than just at our schools. It's a lot of things that we can do right here in Townsville because we have the space. It's just collaborating, getting other people to join in, and let's all work together and make this area better and grow, and just kind of get our economy back up, because TFI was a big hit for us, and now COVID-19 is another hit on top of that.
Yeah.
So we're still rebuilding as a town.
Well, and I think the other thing that Thomasville is dealing with is the change in what they're manufacturing, because you guys were a big textile manufacturing
Mm-hmm.
town as well. And I think a lot of the textiles have changed. I know Winston-Salem went through the same thing several years ago, for being from a textile tobacco background to being arts and innovation now is what they go by. Focusing in on the medicine and the medical community with Wake Forest and the biotech center and things like that. So I think Thomasville is kind of trying to figure out what their revitalization project is going to be, but that explains a lot of the stuckness that some of the community is feeling through their families and their children, and also explains why some of the kids don't think they're ever going to get out. Winston-Salem has a lot of that too. The transgenerational poverty that happens here in the community makes it so that people just don't ever get out. Once you're here, you're here. And so I definitely am with you. I love the passion that you have for that project, and it will take a village. You got to have a village to help you accomplish that. So looking for housing for men and women, looking for places to create fun things for those children to do, because listen, we got to keep our teens entertained, man. If they're not entertained, they're out causing trouble. They're teenagers. That's what they're supposed to do.
Exactly. Exactly. You don't give them an outlet to go, that energy's gonna come out.
It's gonna come out.
Yeah.
It's either gonna come out in something you want it to come out on, or it's gonna come out in a way you don't want it to come out, but it's coming out.
Exactly. Yeah. No matter what you do, it is gonna come out. I've learned that the hard way. It's gonna, yes. It definitely is.
Derek, this has been an awesome conversation, man. I am so glad that you reached out. We got a chance to connect and got a chance to learn a little bit more about the impact that you're having down there in Thomasville and the work that you're doing to help our future, because you're really having an impact on our future generation, our future business owners, and the work that they're going to be doing for our community as we continue to grow and move forward. The last question that I have for you is, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? What if somebody listening has an opportunity for you for housing, or has an idea to help bring some cool ideas and games and things to do for these kids to Thomasville? How are they going to reach out to you?
All right. Several ways, but the easiest way is to email me at square1sportsacademy@gmail.com. That's the easiest way. Or find me on Facebook, Derek Ruff, and you can see all my different. I have EA Preps on there. I have a scholarship league, and you can reach out to any of the one of the 4 outlets there. And I have my phone in my hand 90% of the time. So yeah, that's the best way to reach me, is through either Facebook Messenger or hit me on that email at square1sportsacademy@gmail.com.
Awesome. Derek, I so appreciate you sharing your insight, the work that you're doing with our youth, and your experience in leadership and helping to really help refine and assist and protect our future through the work that you're doing. So thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
I greatly appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise.